Good evening. Welcome to the big question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram. Now, GST 2.0 made this huge promise to bring down prices of everyday essentials. Milk, medicines, daily groceries, gadgets, kitchen appliances, all of this. But the big question that we're raising tonight is this, that are you, the consumer, actually seeing any relief at the checkout counter? Our reporters have been on the ground, both in Delhi and in Mumbai, checking if retailers are actually passing on the benefits of tax cuts. The early signs are not encouraging. While the government is saying that GST 2.0 is meant to be the good and simple tax, now the question is it really turning into good news for shoppers this festive season? And we've got you all those ground reports, and we'll show them to you this evening. To debate this, of course, I'm joined by sharp voices who know this issue inside out. Najib Shah is the former chairman of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. He knows exactly how GST is supposed to flow through the system. Sachin Taparia is the chairman and founder of Local Circles. His platform has its ear to the ground, gathering feedback from lakhs of consumers on whether reforms like GST really work for them. And Dhairishil Patil is also with us. He's the president of the All India Consumer Products Distributors Federation to represent the distributor wholesaler side. Gentlemen, welcome to the big question on NDTV Profit. Our reporters have been on the ground, and just to lay out the context before we get into this debate, we are not making these claims without verification. It's day 3 since the new prices have come into effect, and NDTV Profit has taken the story to the ground, visiting kirana stores, visiting retail outlets, checking if the promised GST cuts are actually getting passed on. Here's this detailed one from my colleague Sanjana. Now, Sanjana is reporting from a kirana store in Mumbai's Andheri West. She's asking a shop owner why the benefits are not getting passed on to consumers. Take a look at this.
Perhaps the biggest benefit that consumers are expecting with the new GST 2.0 rate rationalization is cheaper groceries and cheaper packaged goods. I'm at a store in Andheri West where we're going to find out whether the GST 2.0 benefits are being passed on to the consumers. Remember, it's been 2 days since the rates are in effect, so let's find out. Come on. हाँ जी, आपका नाम?
गोविंद।
आप कब से ये स्टोर चला रहे हैं?
25 साल हो गए, 25 इयर्स।
अच्छा, तो ये बताइए अभी कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स पे जीएसटी का जो नया रेट है वो लगने वाला है?
जैसे कि पनीर है, चीज़ है, फिर बटर्स है, घी है, जैसे मखाना है, फरसान है और काफ़ी सारी ऐसी आइटम है जिसमें जीएसटी कम होने वाला है।
आपके सप्लायर ने आपको नया प्राइस लिस्ट भेजा है?
नहीं, अभी तक कोई नया प्राइस लिस्ट नहीं भेजा है। जैसे हम अभी नया प्रोडक्ट खरीदी करेंगे उसके ऊपर जीएसटी कम होके आएगा, तब जाके प्राइस उसका डाउन होगा।
तो यू बेसिकली सेइंग कि व्हाटएवर पुराना जो सामान है रेट वही रहेगा जो पहले का था?
उसमें वही रहेगा जो एमआरपी रेट्स है, क्योंकि हमको तो वो जीएसटी लग के आया हुआ है और रिफंड कंपनी अगर देगी तो हम वही हिसाब से बेचेंगे। अगर कंपनी हमको रिफंड नहीं देगी तो हम जो एमआरपी रेट है वही हिसाब से सेल करेंगे।
Understood. So if I come in today and I buy a packet of paneer, I will not get the GST benefit just as yet.
No.
I will pay the old rate.
Old rate, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
क्या कस्टमर्स आके आपसे यही सवाल कर रहे हैं?
हाँ, कस्टमर करते हैं सवाल, लेकिन हम उनको ये जवाब देते हैं कि हमको अगर ये जीएसटी में ही आया हुआ है, ऑलरेडी जीएसटी 12% लग के आया, तो हम वो हिसाब से ही आपसे प्राइस लेंगे। जैसे हमको जीएसटी नया कम होके आएगा तो हम आपसे वो प्राइस ले लेंगे।
आपको ये बोला गया है क्या कि मतलब ये लिस्ट आएगा फिर आप दाम कम कर सकते हो, ये या मतलब कुछ डिसाइड हुआ है? क्योंकि ये सुनने में भी आ रहा है कि सरकार बोल रहा है कि अभी जो भी रेट है आप उसको पास कीजिए, फटाफट कंज्यूमर्स को आप बेनिफिट दे दीजिए।
जी नहीं, ऐसा कुछ हमको कुछ सर्कुलेशन कोई व्यापारी की तरफ से या कोई कंपनी की तरफ से कुछ भी नहीं आया है, वो कुछ भी जानकारी भी नहीं दी गई है। सिर्फ हम तो हमारे हिसाब से जो है वो सेल कर रहे हैं। कम आएगा तो कम सेल करेंगे, ज्यादा आएगा तो ज्यादा सेल करेंगे।
अच्छा, लास्ट क्वेश्चन, आपका जब नया माल आएगा वो कभी आएगा, और जो पुराना स्टॉक है वो फिर आप कैसे करेंगे?
देखो, अभी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास भी जो है ओल्ड स्टॉक है, तो अभी हम जो ऑर्डर करते हैं तो वो भी ओल्ड स्टॉक ही आएगा।
राइट।
क्योंकि नया स्टॉक अभी उनके पास प्रोडक्शन होके आया ही नहीं है। जैसे प्रोडक्शन होके नया स्टॉक आएगा वैसे हमारे पास आएगा और वैसे हम सेल करेंगे।
ओके, तो इफ आई वर टू आस्क यू, when can the customers start availing GST benefits? Would it be November, December, Jan? वो कभी होगा?
नेक्स्ट मंथ से शायद स्टार्ट हो सकता है। हो जाएगा, क्योंकि न्यू प्रोडक्शन आने में 1 वीक या 15 डेज समथिंग लगेगा टाइम, और उसके बाद जो है वो न्यू स्टार्ट हो जाएगा।
All right, thank you so much. So there you heard it, just like this store, there are many such stores in Mumbai that are now saying that they need to actually get rid of and sell off the older stock first at the older prices before they get a new list from their suppliers, and then they can pass on the benefits to the consumer. And we'll continue tracking more such shops in the area and find out whether the GST 2.0 rate rationalization has actually taken effect, or whether consumers can actually take the benefit a few months down the line.
And yes, we've been talking to a lot of retailers, and there you have one of the reasons that they have old inventory and they've bought it at a certain GST rate. So they're not passing on the benefits just yet. In fact, there were reporters telling me that most retailers are hesitant. You had one speaking on camera, but most of them are not. They say they have no clarity from their suppliers, from the distributors, on passing on the new benefits. In fact, my colleague Agnidev was in Kalina in Mumbai, and after speaking to some small kirana shop owners, he was asking them why they're not updating their prices in line with the new GST cuts. They did not want to speak on camera. He was checking on how aware even customers are about this downward revision of prices. Here's what he came away with.
We have been talking to retailers here in Mumbai, and from what we are gathering, the GST benefits are still some time away from being passed on to the end consumer. Retailers we have talked to have said there's significant ambiguity on how the prices are to be passed on to the consumer, and they are saying that there is no clarity from the distributor or the manufacturer on how to send these benefits to the end consumer. Now remember, our channel checks suggest that there have been some sort of clarity given to distributors that they need to pass on the benefits to the retailers who will pass it on to consumers, but none of that has taken place. In fact, retailers themselves have slowed down their purchases from distributors and indirectly from the manufacturers, hoping to clear out old inventory before the new inventory with updated MRPs or grammages come in. Now, there is some amount of ambiguity present in small retailers, but larger retailers who go through systematic processes like your DMart and all have started updating their accounts to reflect the GST changes. But within the smaller retailers, there is no clarity. We are being told that consumers do come in asking for benefits of GST being passed on to them, but this is non-uniform and very limited compared to most of the consumers who still end up buying items on MRP. Now remember that there is a consumer helpline that the government has for reporting that the GST benefits are not being passed on, and that is a number where you can call and let them know your problems. But as of now, we are being told that updated MRPs will only be reflected from the second week of October. Until then, this ambiguity as to how the GST benefits in the retail sector will be passed on to the consumer remains to be a confusing point.
Why is there ambiguity right now? Let me take it across to my guests joining us on this debate. From the consumer side, you tell me, Sachin Taparia, why do you see such ambiguity? Do you see this back in the day in 2018-19 as well? Why are we seeing this recurring, if at all that was the case?
No, it very much was the case, Vikram, and that's why last week we had done a survey, a consumer survey, which was a national survey, where basically we asked citizens and consumers, whether they received the benefits of the GST rate reduction in the weeks after the rates were cut in 2018-19. And the response we got was it was only 2 in 10 consumers who said that they got those benefits. And 8 in 10 consumers basically said that if this were to become a success, it's absolutely critical that the brands actually work with the whole supply chain to pass these benefits on to the distributor, stockist, and to the retailer so they reach the end consumer. And they were skeptical that they would be getting these benefits. We released the survey last Friday because it's kind of, on the expected lines. And that's exactly how it is playing out.
So the skepticism actually stands true. Mr. Najib Shah, you have seen this in close quarters in terms of a rollout. The huge promise made by the Prime Minister himself for festive times. Now, that's not translating just yet. This kind of lag, is it expected in the system? How do you see it?
Look, there will always be transition challenges in any such major reduction in slabs, because you are now checking these reduction in prices at the retail level. The poor chap can pass on the benefits only if his distributor and manufacturer in turn advise him to do so, because he is concerned having bought it at the higher price. So I think there will be some transitional challenges. I think we have been a little unfair and impatient, if I may add, and it should all translate very soon into actual reduction because...
Impatient, Mr. Shah. The promise was that from the 22nd of September, we are going to see the rollout. So is it wrong for consumers to expect that to happen when they go shopping? Because it was meant for the festive time.
Rollout has happened. I mean, why do you say the rollout has not happened? There has been a reduction in slabs.
But we're not seeing it on the ground, sir.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I think everybody is being impatient. Vikram has done his survey, and I'm sure, as brought out by a reporter also, there is a lack of such reduction on the field. But please,
we'll have to have patience is what you're saying. Dhairishil Patil, from your perspective, from the distributor's perspective, you heard those retailers. They are saying that they'd have no indication. So if we are going to fix the problems that we saw in 2018-19, like Sachin Tapadia is pointing out, shouldn't we have learned our lessons and made sure that the benefits do pass on? Because this is supposed to help consumption. It's supposed to help the entire ecosystem and boost our entire consumption.
Yeah, thank you, Vikram. See, as you rightly said, we have to remember 2017.
Okay.
Definitely, this major change has come after such a long time, and that too in a mid of a month. That is on the 22nd, because we are almost there for the half year ending. But I would like to state on record that almost major of the FMCG companies had started billing of the products to the retailer with the new applied rates. Though they were charging 18% GST, but still till 21st of September, they were giving the schemes to the market, that is the quantity purchase discounts, which was widely advertised in newspapers as suggested by the government. And yes, from 10th, 11th or 12th of September, the entire retail chain which was supplied with the stocks were given the amount of discount which is needs to be given on the new products. As you definitely said that the closing stock at any given point of a retailer is not more than 15 to 20 days. After say 11th, we have already crossed 10, 12 days. So the retail are not having that much amount of old stocks, though the MRP which they are being billed right now are old MRPs, but with new rates. So now the retailer are receiving the stocks with the new GST rate, which needs to be passed on to the government. The government had asked the FMCG companies to do a stickering on the MRP so that reduction MRP can be visual to the consumer. But it is not physically possible also. But yes, the stocks right now into the market are there with the new MRP since last 10 to 12 days. There might be some stocks which are of old this thing.
So haven't we accounted for that? Was this supposed to be this way? That old inventory is going to be sold at old prices? Was it meant to be like that? Or were we supposed to expect those GST 2.0 rates to kick in so that consumers would have this immediately at this point in time? Because already the government is saying that action could likely be taken. There is a redressal forum as well for any complaints where GST is not getting passed on.
Vikram, because not even 1% of the retail, that is the kirana stores, are computerized. So tracking their inventory is practically impossible. Whether what inventory an individual retailer is carrying is especially out of question. So that is why the retailers are already having a stock of 10-15 days, and the companies had reduced the prices from 11th itself. So they already got
retailers are pointing, but retailers are pointing at the wholesalers and the distributors for the kind of pricing that they are applying. This kind of pricing needs to be shared, right? This is an important piece. Someone will have to take a hit as far as the kind of pressure that comes through this kind of reduction in GST rates, considering there is inventory from the past. Someone will have to take a hit, and perhaps that hit needs to be shared.
That is what the calculation was. The company started giving the discount well in advance before the date of 22nd.
Correct.
So it was assumed that the retailer is having say about 10-15 days or 20 days of stock, which will be exhausted. Till then, he has the entire new inventory with him
Okay.
with the discounts.
Okay.
So that was expected from the retailer to be done. The companies are still trying to do. We are receiving some leaflet and banners from the companies.
Yes,
to put
but
up
not
to
all
the
of them.
retailers.
Not all of them.
That is in process. That is in process.
But not all of them. It's still work in progress. My colleague Danish had been to South Delhi's Jangpura market. He also realized that theory and practice don't always add up. 3 days since the new GST rates have kicked in, he found that the milk packet still costs the same. The cheese, curd, the butter, even the Tetra pack of milk that should in theory be lighter on the pocket isn't quite so. Well, at least not all shopkeepers are implementing the price cuts uniformly. The real pain point is the small shopkeepers, like you said, and you can't track them because they're not all computerized. But here's Danish's report, just to understand the problems on the ground that consumers are facing.
Well, today is the third day since the new GST rates have been implemented, and this is across all goods including FMCG and milk products. As far as milk products are concerned, there is no change in the normal milk packets like this because these were already exempt under GST. But as far as Tetra pack milk packets are concerned, those are now being sold at a cheaper price. The majority of these milk products earlier attracted a 12% GST, but now the GST has been reduced to 5%, and this price reduction is visible in other products like cheese, dahi and butter. But on ground, we have reached Jangpura market in South Delhi, and over here we tried to speaking to at least 10 shopkeepers. Out of those 10 shopkeepers, only one shopkeeper agreed to speak on camera, and he clearly said that he's very happy to pass on these GST rate cut benefits to its consumers. He was selling certain Amul products, and those had the old MRP, but still he said that we are selling these products at a cheaper price considering the new GST rate reject. But as far as other shopkeepers are concerned, those people told NDTV Profit that it is difficult to pass on this benefit to consumers as they're facing hurdles from big wholesalers or from distributors, as these guys are still selling these products at the old rates, and hence small shopkeepers have no other option apart from selling milk products at the older rate. सर 22 तारीख से सरकार ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लेकर आए और काफ़ी जो रोज़मर्रा की चीज़ें हैं, डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, उनमें काफ़ी दाम सस्ते हुए हैं, चाहे वो मिनिस्क्यूल दाम सस्ते हुए, 2 रुपये 4 रुपये. तो आप लोग इसको आगे कैसे पास ऑन कर रहे हैं?
ये बहुत अच्छा है हमारे लिए भी और पब्लिक के लिए भी.
तो अब आगे पास ऑन कैसे कर रहे हैं सस्ते रेट्स?
जैसे न्यू प्रिंट आ रहा है उसी हिसाब से कर रहे हैं सब पास ऑन.
और जैसे कि जो आपका कोई पुराना माल पड़ा है और उस पर MRP पुरानी लिखी है लेकिन उसके दाम अगर कम हो गए हैं तो उसको आप किस रेट पे बेच रहे हैं?
जैसे जो पुराना स्टॉक है वो तो पुराने के हिसाब से जाएगा, जैसे नया स्टॉक आएगा न्यू जैसे नया रेट डिक्रीज होकर आएगा उसी हिसाब से कम होगा सब.
और काफ़ी दुकानदारों की ये भी कंप्लेंट है, जो खासकर छोटे दुकानदार हैं, वो कहते हैं कि हम लोग तो चाहते हैं आगे GST का बेनिफिट पास ऑन करना, लेकिन जो होलसेलर से या डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से वो सामान ले रहे हैं वो पुरानी MRP पे है तो आगे पास ऑन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. तो इस पर आप क्या कहना चाहिए?
गलत है, जो नया रेट आएगा उसी नए रेट पे बेचना चाहिए.
तो और जब से आपने कुछ बदलाव देखा है अपने सामान को ज़्यादा बिकते हुए देख के कि कंसिडरिंग कि काफ़ी दाम कम हो गए हैं काफ़ी सामान पे, तो कुछ आपको दिख रहा है कि ज़्यादा कस्टमर अब आ रहे हैं, जो कोई पहले कम सामान कम लेता था अब महंगा सामान ले रहा है?
नहीं, ऐसी बात नहीं है, जिसको जो चाहिए वो तो लेगा ही वो, पर ये है फ़र्क पड़ा थोड़ा सा.
और मतलब दुकान में आना जाना लोगों का बढ़ गया?
हाँ, थोड़ा सा फ़र्क पड़ा.
So consumers are going to buy the essentials. That's why they are called essentials. But when it comes to their rights, I want to ask you, Sachin Taparia, from the consumption side, from the consumer's perspective, do you see this as a case of middlemen, retailers, padding their margins? Or is this just a lag before the benefits actually reach the households? It's an important piece because back in the day, you had an anti-profiteering forum as well. Where do things stand on that count to be able to keep a watch on this situation?
So a good point, Vikram. I think there are 3 things that really need to happen here.
Okay.
First, I think the manufacturers or the brands essentially needed to work this out with their supply chain and ensure that the retailer has some incentive to pass this benefit, right? So which means, all the stakeholders, whether it is the brand, the distributor, the stockist, or the retailer, everybody contributes a little bit. And as a result, the consumer gets the benefit of that 7%, cost advantage essentially. That hasn't happened, as you heard, in Sanjana's report from the ground, that they haven't even heard from the supply chain. So I think that needed to happen, and then on top of that, some enforcement needs to happen where
Yes.
the brands, their representatives need to go and ensure that there is communication, in this day and age of WhatsApp and fast, messaging, going across the supply chain. I think all of this is very possible. It
Okay.
just government needs to mandate it and the brands need to implement it. So that's number one.
Right.
Number two, Mr. Patil talked about FMCG products, where it is only 15-20 days worth of inventory, and we should see some respite in terms of prices. But there is a lot of other products as well, for example, shaving lotion and shaving creams and appliances and white goods where prices have reduced. And there, you could still have inventory, which is 6 months or 9 months old. So it's going to take a while before, this kind of reaches the consumer across the board. And the third issue is that the government has given a long time for the new MRPs to be mandated on the packaging.
Yes, they have. Yes.
March 31st, which is way too long. And what we saw in 2018-19 was that a long time was given. And after that 6-7 month period at that time, many brands basically came back saying we have had a cost increase and hence, we cannot really lower the MRPs.
Right.
So I think that's something that has to be kept in mind to, keep the consumer interest up front and make all of this work very, very quickly within the next couple of weeks. So that way, before Diwali, the benefits, start reaching the consumer.
So you can't wait that long. Najib Shah, would you agree? GST accountability, how much weaker is it right now? Shouldn't the government ensure stricter checks so that benefits are going to reach the end consumer quickly?
I'm sure they're working on it. I mean, programs like this, which highlight the concerns of the consumers brought out by Sachin, would be taken cognizance of by the government authorities. And like you rightly pointed out, this was an announcement made by the Prime Minister, no less. And the benefits will pass on. I think we would not have to wait till Diwali. The anti-profiteering mechanism is no longer in vogue, but the law remains there. And I think the industry has been sensitized to ensure the benefits are passed on. There's a lag somewhere in between the manufacturer, the distributor, and the retail point at which place we are questioning about the exact reduction.
Correct.
There are provisions for this transition. I'm sure the government, both at the central and the state levels, will start enforcing this sooner rather than later.
Well, we've spoken about the regular grocery items where the price cuts of GST 2.0 are still not visibly getting passed on. What about our daily medicines? Earlier, they were in the 12 and 18% slabs. Most of them are now in the 5% category. But really, are they? My colleague Sanjana also hit the ground in the Andheri market, and she did find that prices have seen a drop. But shopkeepers, the pharmacists, they are worried about who is going to refund the price benefits that they've passed on. This is a report on how it stands on the medicines front.
When the government passed GST 2.0, sweeping rate rationalization came into effect on September 22nd. Now, 2 days later, we're on ground in Mumbai to find out whether consumers are actually reaping the benefits with a tax policy on paper. Let's find out. हाँ जी, आपका नाम?
रंजित।
आप ये कब से स्टोर चला रहे हैं?
15 साल से।
ओके, और आपके साथ एक आपने जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन किया हुआ है?
हाँ।
कौन से मेडिसिन या डिवाइसेस पर जीएसटी रेट अब 5% हो गया है? क्या आप हमको बिल दिखा सकते हैं?
तो ऑलमोस्ट मेडिसिन में सब में ही हो गया है, और जो फूड सप्लीमेंट वगैरह है वो तो 18% था, वो एज इट इज रहेगा।
ओके,
ये बिल ले लीजिए, इसमें से बहुत मेडिसिन है, ये 2.5 एंड 2.5।
ओके, क्या आपने दाम कम किया है कस्टमर के लिए? कुछ एग्जांपल दे सकते हैं?
हाँ, दे सकते हैं। अभी ये बिल ही देख लीजिए ना। फर्स्ट वाला मेडिसिन है ये पैन 40, उसका प्राइस इधर 175 है, यहाँ पे आप स्ट्रिप पे दे सकते हैं 187 है।
ओके,
तो ऑलमोस्ट मीन सब मेडिसिन में वैसा ही हुआ है।
पुराना स्टॉक जो पहले था और उसका जो रेट उस पे रहा है, उसको आपने कैसे मैनेज किया है?
नहीं, वो सॉफ्टवेयर में ऑटोमेटिक अपडेट हो गया है।
ओके,
तो मैन्युअली कुछ किया नहीं है।
और अगर कुछ कंफ्यूजन है आपके दिमाग में अभी भी कि कैसे पास ऑन करना है ये बेनिफिट्स, या पूरा स्मूथ प्रोसेस रहा है?
ये तो प्रोसेस सिंपल ही है, ऑटोमेटिक अपडेट हुआ है तो एज इट इज बिल प्रिंट होके आता है तो वो रेट से ही जाता है। बस अभी उसका हमको रीएम्बर्समेंट कैसे मिलेगा उसका कंफ्यूजन है।
अच्छा,
वो पूरा कंफ्यूजन है।
कंज्यूमर्स आके आपसे पूछ रहे हैं कि अभी ये जीएसटी इस पे नहीं है?
मोस्टली कस्टमर पूछते हैं कि अभी जीएसटी नया है तो प्राइस कम हुआ कि नहीं हुआ।
ओके,
वो पूछते हैं।
ठीक है। All right, so there you had it. You heard it from Ranjit of this Andheri medical store, who's saying that the process has been fairly seamless. Consumers are pretty aware that now there are GST benefits, but like he rightly said, it is on the side of shopkeepers, vendors, and retailers to understand how they can now avail of those refunds.
So there you have it. At the end of the day, GST 2.0, gentlemen, that was sold as a consumer-friendly reform. The intent being clear, but now the impact on the ground is still quite patchy. Distributors, retailers, and indeed policymakers, they may all have their reasons, but for the Indian shopper right now, the question is going to be simple. Are prices really falling in their neighborhood stores? And that's what's going to define whether GST 2.0 lives up to that promise of good and simple tax. It's a big thank you to my guests, Najib Shah, Sachin Taparia, Dhairishil Patil. Thank you for sharing your insights with us tonight. And thank you, all of you, for joining us on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram Oza, and that was The Big Question. Do keep it with us.